I want to now welcome our panelists to today's session. So today's session is all about building the best learning journey, and we're joined by our partners from GuyKat, David Brannon, as well as one of our customers from Acre Biomarine. We have Celia Gassett-Moisha, and very excited to have you guys on the session today.
Hi, Rob. We're very happy to be here as well, especially during these COVID times. It's great to be able to speak to everybody on the line today.
Absolutely. So, David, I'd love to hand it over to you and let you kind of take it away and talk about how people can really build that best learning journey.
Absolutely. So, yeah, today's topic is building the best learning journey. I'll speak to some examples of some of the work that I've been involved in here at GuyKat, UK partner for Docebo. We also have Celia on the line here from Acre Biomarine, who will talk about her experience, our collaboration together as well, which hopefully all of you will benefit from. We're really excited to talk about some of the work we've been doing. So the title for today is the Building the Best Learning Journey. And we'll talk through a combination of different things that can help you get there. That may be down to the way that you set up your Docebo platform, consider your business requirements, make the most of the features within Docebo, the landing page feature especially, how you can configure pages with widgets and or take it a little bit further actually with some customization. So we're going to talk to some of those items, and Celia, who's here today, has gone through those steps with her particular platform setup. Just before we get into the detail on some of the examples that we want to talk about, just so you know, I'm from GuyKat, like I said a moment ago. I'm based in England, in Birmingham. Our company was founded here. We do now have an office over in the US as well. We've been on a massive growth journey. It was formed in 2009. 2010, we actually began trading as an e-learning agency predominantly, creating interactive content, and that's using all of the different kinds of authoring programs that I'm sure many of you already know, things like Articulate, Adobe Captivate, all of that kind of content production. And then a couple of years later, we formed our partnership with Docebo, which is fantastic for us as a business. Docebo really were getting going worldwide, and we joined a partnership at the right point in time. This, of course, is all just before I actually began working at GuyKat. And when I joined, I've had lots of experience with the platform, actually, selling it in the UK. But we're getting a lot of inquiries from a lot of different customers about how to use the platform, how to take it to the next level. And that's when we decided to take our own professional services line forward. And in 2016, that began. And that includes all different things to help you with your system setup, from front-end design, administration, consultation, software development, all of those kinds of things. And you can get in touch and talk about those in more detail. Anyhow, in 2019, we actually met Acre Biomarine. Docebo introduced us to Celia, and that's what we're going to talk about today in a short moment. First of all, though, I'm just going to talk through how we're going to take those topics and work through them. So we want to understand really, how to create a learning journey through the platform. This may also extend to outside of your system as well, to your website. Ultimately, we believe that Docebo is the technology to do this, but there's other items that are involved, and that's the people and the process. And when we put those together, we get a really good output with the project. Acre Biomarine, who are online today, have entered this world and mastered it pretty quickly. They've had some really good success over the last year, so we're going to talk to that in a bit more detail. And then customizable landing pages is something that we at GuyKat do a lot of work on. You can do it yourselves as well, but there's lots of possibilities out of the box with Docebo. So with a learning management system, it allows a lot of flexibility to allow some of those business requirements, those things that you imagine to be delivered in your learning project. Okay, so you should see it on screen now. We've got an equation. We have the people, the process, and the technology. And we think that combining those three things really results in the best learning journey. Enabling that those steps and making sure that you think about those steps whilst you're delivering your project would only enable you to have more success. The constant in this equation is technology. We found Docebo, and we knew it was a great platform when we partnered a number of years back. As that technology has evolved, it's just got better and better. But the item that really needs the more help is actually defining the processes that make sure that your platforms run properly, implemented properly, and delivering success year on year ultimately. And the other item is the people. And the people can include your audience or your many different audiences that you're pitching to, and also the people that are behind the scenes, the administrators, people running the system setup. We have to get all of these things together working consistently in order to get that result for the learner experience. And for me, that's the most important part. Always thinking about who's coming onto your Docebo platform, who's accessing your learning materials. Is it presented in a way that people understand? Is it easy to access? Are they getting good value from it? And are they going to come back? If they don't come back, then you're not nailing it, unfortunately. And that's really important. You need to try and make an experience that people enjoy. You see it across the web, on all the websites that you access. Everything needs to be as simple as possible to drive engagement. And that's something that we have top of mind with any kind of project that we go into. I've been very fortunate to almost grow up with the technology through my life, accessing learning management systems from university level, and then into my first jobs, creating content, adding it to the internet, and going through all of the hurdles as the internet's grown. It's been an interesting journey. Eventually, when I got to work with Docebo, I finally found the answer. Ultimately, I was really happy that I joined a company that had partnered with this platform. It allows you to really present the content in a good, easy, accessible way. Over the last 5-6 years, with the professional services that we've launched, we've worked with all different kinds of industries over the years, and some of those have included retail, pharmaceuticals, education, all different ones. Particularly over the last year, retail, we've worked with a company to set up a platform really for an internal use case, the typical what you might normally purchase a learning management system for, to train your internal employees. The challenge, unfortunately, was that the team picking up the project had no real technology experience. They had been, out in the classroom teaching their staff how to sell their clothes ultimately in the shops, for this particular example. And it was a big challenge to bring this experience online. So they sought a bit of extra help, and that's how we got in touch. And we worked with them throughout the Docebo implementation and ended up building out a really nice, easy, accessible system that once they'd gone to their website, they'd gone through single sign-on, they landed in the platform, they had a landing page setup that was sleek, on brand, matched what they were familiar with, the users that were coming in, the learners, and also tailoring the experience so that if you were a certain type of job role, you'd have a certain type of experience once you got into the platform. And that was really key for this particular audience. They really wanted to make sure that the content that they were presenting was relevant to the learners that were coming in. Really nice project to be involved in, very fortunate. And that one's gone live. They also added in an extra step to make sure that people that are new to the company with onboarding had a different kind of access so they could have a really good experience. We've worked with pharmaceuticals, different businesses actually over the last couple of years, and different kinds of use cases have come up. We've had massive library content vehicles that just needed to get everything into the platform and accessible. And that was a challenge in itself, just to arrange the taxonomy to make sure that content was in the right categories, in the right catalogues, easy accessible and easy for the learners to kind of find what they need. Massive kind of challenge just to organise that. But once we kind of brought it into Docebo, and again, made a nice experience inside the platform so they could see, all different kinds of learners could see what they wanted to see that was kind of recommended to them, but also browse the wider library. So that was an exciting project too. As well as that, we've had a pharmaceuticals company that really had a specific piece of training. They needed to get a piece of training up there and released globally. Only one course actually, but it was a challenge in itself because it needed to have lots of translations. It had to be rolled out all across the world, different terms and conditions that needed to be activated by external users. Really, really big project actually, and it's going out there now, and people are accessing the training. And because the Docebo platform has been set up in such a clean and efficient way, it's having great success. I've highlighted another industry example here with education. Obviously, we're all talking about education, but actually, some of you who might be on the line listening in here may be in the education business, school, college, university. It's not kind of a normal, typical Docebo story for us, this, but we've been working with a company that really has been having to train teachers, which is a pretty difficult target audience to kind of go for. Fortunately, the company had such good brand recognition that they have put a lot of effort into their content, and we've worked with them for that as well. But our main kind of thing that we were involved in was to make sure that the experience from the website through to the Docebo platform was on brand, and that was really important. We needed to make sure that they had good access to all of the content, but it was streamlined and easy to access. And that, we've worked with all different people in all different kinds of industries to help realise that. And one of those is actually Aker BioMarine, and we're fortunate enough to work with Celia over the last year with a very different use case for me, something that I wasn't particularly used to. And I'm going to let Celia kind of tell this story, and hopefully it'll be really interesting for all of you to hear. So I'm going to click a slide further on. I'm going to hand it over to you, Celia, and you can tell us all about it.
Thank you, David, and hello to everyone joining our webinar today. So happy to have you all with us. So I'm Celia Gasser-Moishe. I'm the Learning and Development Manager at Aker BioMarine, and we're a fishing and biotechnology company known for our sustainable krill harvesting operations in Antarctica. And from this, we produce omega-3 rich krill oil products, both for human consumption as well as for animal and aquaculture feed. We're about 400 employees, spanning from our crew on the fishing vessels in Antarctica and to our people at the various offices globally. And we do have our head office here in Oslo. So I joined Aker BioMarine about 2 years ago, entering a new role for the company. And at that time, we didn't have any online learning system, no infrastructure facilitating for this at all. So quite soon, I started the process of looking into a system that could nurture a learning culture across our organization. And I'm so excited to join today and share this story with you guys on how we have been implementing Docebo in Aker BioMarine as our learning portal. And I will touch upon how we have considering, as David mentioned, both the people side, the process side, and also the technology side in this. But first, I need to start with my L&D vision, because I think that this really sets the premises for the learning journey as such. So that I need to kind of define first, and then I will walk you through a few success factors and key enablers for this to happen. And at the very end of my session here, I will give you a glance of our key landing pages. So for me, it's key to see learning as an ongoing process in the flow of work, rather than as an isolated event. And due to this, I want us to move away, from this content dumping that employees quickly forget, and rather shift to a user-centric approach. And therefore, we in Aker BioMarine want to provide our employees with, the tools and the resources they need at the time when they need it. And then in this way, we want to make learning task-led and not topic-led. And I think that the learner should be in charge of what they need, when they need it. And in this way, hopefully avoiding, the L&D team shaping and driving the learning experience. So that's really my vision. So with this in mind, what were the key success factors letting an online system be the engine for this? When researching for a suitable learning portal, these 3 key success factors kind of stood out. And the first one is that it had to facilitate for both formal and informal learning. And as already touched upon, I want the learners to access resources as shorter learning opportunities in a moment of need, in addition to the more formal learning initiatives that we provide. And secondly, enabling user-generated content. This is really at my heart. And it's a key element in our strategy going forward. We're all experts, and having a way that people easily can share their knowledge and expertise is really the future of organizational learning. And finally, having a bespoke or tailor-made landing page with a visually appealing interface, with also where you have the informal learning assets in focus, was also crucial for us. So with these as our success factors, using technology to facilitate a learning culture, we chose Docebo as our learning portal provider. So let me briefly walk you through now what I see as being the key enablers implementing Docebo successfully in Aker BioMarine. So once having signed the contract, that's quite easy. But then I knew I couldn't embark on this journey alone. I am really the L&D team in Aker BioMarine. I do not have any team members yet, and neither did we have any technical resources internally that could help me configure and set up the system. So a key enabler for this project is really the partnership with GuyKat. And we have had a really close collaboration throughout the last year, as David also told you. And to have these dedicated resources available almost 24/7 to help you out in a moment of need, that's just amazing. And from a technical perspective, I couldn't done without that. And they know all about how Docebo works. And last fall, within 6 weeks, we managed to set up a pilot of an onboarding portal, which I will show you in a moment. And to have that onboarding portal available when the COVID-19 situation hit us, it couldn't be better when we had to do all the onboarding, and we still are doing online onboarding remotely. And this GuyKat really was amazing to help out and work with me throughout to get that feasible within 6 weeks. Then working closely with my power users has also been really essential. In line with having a step-by-step implementation approach, I currently work closely with a couple of power users. And I believe if we manage to create a success story in their part of the organization, the value of the system will gradually spread to the rest of Aker BioMarine. So at least that's my strategy. So I work closely with the power users. I help them in managing the system. I train them on accelerated learning principles, because I believe that's core to kind of get high quality formal content. And of course, I share my ambition of user-generated content, which is the coach and share part of the platform. And good for me, they do walk the talk to inspire and nudge this in their part of Aker BioMarine. So a big thank you really to Sandra and Deborah for that. And then finally, I have worked to get a handful of ambassadors. And these are people that goes across subject matter experts and head of departments. And I work to convince them also about the value of user-generated content. And for instance, in this moment, we have a team developing bite-sized system tutorial training that will be available in the moment of need, as opposed to in the past, offered as long classroom training modules. So I think that really showcases the valuable shift from just-in-case learning to just-in-time learning. That I at least highly believe in, and I'm so eager to enable. And with that, I guess it's time to have a look at our portal. Here it is. That is our landing page, all customized based on our needs and according to our own design proposals. Looks great, don't you think? I'm at least very happy. And you see we have Mr. Krill there, wondering about what is it that you want to learn today. And we have easy access to all key sections of the portal, both the informal and the formal learning assets. And you are maybe wondering about the hexagons. We use those as the key structure, and that's because we want to give it a recognizable look and feel for our employees, as this is really part of our visual branding. And you see that the user-generated content part here, represented with the contribute section, is by purpose put at the very left, and that's just to give it attention it deserves and for easy access for people. Then beneath this hexagon structure, and which you cannot see because this is kind of the upper part of our portal, but the lower part we have kind of the channel setup, and this is all personalized based on interest, role, and responsibility. And that's also the part of the portal where all the user-generated or learning assets shared by our colleagues are shown. Then I promised you to show you our onboarding portal, which I'm really, really happy with, which we designed and launched in last fall. And from last year, all new employees in Aker BioMarine, they are directed to this page the first day of employment. And we recommend them to complete phase 1 within the first weeks, so before the calendars get too busy. And then we have phase 2, that is our classroom training, which is the Aker BioMarine Boost Camp, which is unfortunately put on hold due to the COVID-19 situation. But we do hope to kick this off again early next year. And then phase 3, that's an extension of the classroom training, where the newcomers or the learner, they have to reflect on how their own role and function contribute to the greater purpose of Aker BioMarine. And both phase 1 and phase 3, they are all blended learning solutions. So in short, this is our high-level journey on implementing Docebo in Aker BioMarine. That being said, it's still work in progress, particularly, I must say, when it comes to the user-generated content part. It's for sure not done overnight to get people to share and contribute, but I'm convinced that this is the future of organizational learning. We have just started. I mean, we launched this to all employees in March, so I know that I just have to be a bit patient maybe. And then I will, of course, continue to encourage our employees and my colleagues step by step and unit by unit to make it happen. Okay, David, that's my short story. I think you're eager to elaborate on how we can customize landing pages. So back to you again.
Yeah, and thank you very much, Celia. That's a great overview of your project, and it's obviously been a great pleasure to work with you during those steps. Yeah, it was a very fast project to work on at the beginning to get things live in just a matter of weeks ultimately. And then you could see just on the graphic that we threw up on screen that we had a quite a customized experience that we created as we worked along in a very agile way, actually, in your project. Sometimes there's a lot of kind of concrete business requirements up front and a lot of work with graphics teams and marketing teams with the different businesses that I work with. But we just had to work together and build something, didn't we? And it was quite a fun, exciting project, and we utilised some of the team in-house. I worked with some of yourself really to try and push it along. There's a few questions kind of flying in as well on the back of your presentation of the page, I guess the first page with the kind of hover effect. And is this iframed in? No, it's not actually. It's built inside of Docebo. We did a bit of customization. We'll talk about that now. And somebody also asked whether they needed to upgrade. No, you don't need to upgrade. It's all, you can do all of this already in the platform. You just need to take it a little bit further. So I'm going to explain that now with the slide that's on screen. So we have in Docebo this really powerful control for when you land in the platform. We always call it, well, at GuyKat, I always call it the landing page. So you log in and you land on a page, right? Fortunately, Docebo over time has really grown that functionality. I think I have to double check with the Docebo team, but I think it's 1,000 pages now that you can actually create in the platform, and you can basically create a different landing page for a different audience. It's really quite powerful. And inside the system, there's a widgets editor. Most of the people on the line who work with Docebo day in, day out here, experience with the platform, you would have discovered this widgets editor. It's really easy to use. You can put in a landing page quite quickly. You can bring in dynamic widgets that have catalogs or channels, reporting widgets, or calendar, loads of different things. And it's not, you don't need to be a web coder or anything like that to make an experience for your learners. And it all looks great and it's very powerful. And you can set up different versions of that for different audiences. And that as part of the system is actually has an extra layer of power that you do have access to. Docebo itself, built in, actually has something called a CSS panel. Some of you, I'm not a coder, a lot of people on my team are, but CSS stands for cascading style sheets. And it's all that means, really. It's the coding that makes your web page look the way it does. There's a bit of code before that called HTML, which is the basics of like the paragraphs and the header and the footer, etc. But once you put some CSS code onto the site, it comes to life. It has the look and feel that you see on any ordinary website. The Docebo itself has, it has some brilliant CSS built in. The CSS panel allows us to actually, all of you here who may well be clients already, and other people that are coming onto the platform to see, it gives you a CSS panel. You can actually get a coder to influence the look and feel of your platform. Okay, it allows you then to build out a page like what you saw with Celia's example. It had a really nice, I loved the branding when I saw Acre Biomarine's website, and Celia wanted to bring that into the Docebo platform, and I said, why not? We need to leverage the widgets editor, the CSS panel, and make that happen. And actually, we showed you the section, which is as it is actually in the platform at the top, with some really key kind of icons that take you to particular parts of the platform. there is actually a scroll, and below that there are some channels that Celia's picked out that are key to her audience, and they're nicely named and have lots of content and accessible. But that look and feel is what we wanted. We wanted to make an impression that when learners came into this platform, it wasn't your typical VLE, your typical virtual learning environment or learning management system. We wanted to take it a little bit further so that when people came to it, they thought, oh, this is good, this is interesting, I'll come back here. And that, I feel like we've pitched it quite well. We utilised the technology as far as we could push it really at that point in time. I'll just click on to the next slide, because how can you make that actually happen? Some of you are probably thinking, well, I don't know how to do that. Obviously, the connection with us has enabled that. We do have team resources available to work kind of on your account and make that happen quite easily, to be honest. We have graphic designers, front-end web developers available. Doesn't mean that you have to come through a partner. You can do these things yourself as well if you've got resources available. That's always one of the tricky things in a project, is getting resources available for it. I think at that point in time for Celia, you really benefited from our team's blended skill set. As we went along, we built out the different pages and kind of worked collaboratively together to realise that. Often we do actually kind of work on a project from the beginning, and we work with you and your graphics team to kind of imagine what you want your learning management system, what your Docebo platform to look like. And sometimes you might come to us with some of those ideas and have a fantastic graphics department. If you're that lucky to have one, brilliant. And we love working with different teams across the world now. But we can help you kind of bring that through into the platform. And if you might have a front-end developer who can work on it as well. There's lots of kind of ins and outs to learn. It's not kind of copy and paste code, unfortunately. You have to kind of work with the platform, but you can do it. You can make your site look really, really on brand, and a bit of a game changer, really. We think that this is the way to do it. Our team's grown over the years doing this kind of work. It's not just obviously the page design, it's about thinking about the configuration behind it, and you can see that, or heard from Celia there, bringing in Coach and Share was a significant part of the project. If you don't know what Coach and Share is, it's a social part of the Docebo platform you can bring in. You can turn that one on. It's a kind of an extra item. It's really powerful and allows the learners to contribute content into the system, allows them to ask questions about the content or go into threads where they talk to each other on the system. And for us, for GuyKat, monitoring that situation as the technology has got better over time, that bit is something that we've always said, why not? Why not go forward with that and put that into your platform? When Celia came to us and started talking about her project, I said, why not? We're at the beginning. Sometimes I speak with big businesses, big teams that are reluctant to kind of make that step. They have a lot of kind of defined business requirements that kind of say, no, we'll do that in phase 2, phase 3. And I bang on the drum and say, no, come on, let's get it going now, because otherwise, if you don't, you're not keeping up with that technology. The technology's built, it's already there and ready to use. If you can make the choices with your people to do it now, you'll have more success. You'll get people coming back because it's modern. It's what they expect. People are on Facebook these days, aren't they? They're on all the different kind of social media platforms. They expect when they go to your learning experience for it to be modern and up to date. Docebo's technology is already there. It's just a case of really making sure that within your team and your people, you make those choices to be kind of embracing it and then work out the process to do it. Yeah, okay, there might be some more steps to get there, maybe with the design of some landing pages, for example, or if you turn on those kind of social functions, yeah, there might be some need to think about who's going to look at what's coming in or who's going to become the experts in the organization. It's quite a challenge to get that kind of culture shift moving, but it's kind of up to probably a lot of the people here who are listening in today to make those steps. And I feel like Celia has done that. It's a very successful project so far. We tend to carry on working with you for the long run and watching the technology kind of evolve and making the most of the updates that come from Docebo. I mean, they've got a brilliant team behind the scenes working day in, day out to monitor what's happening out there, what's the best kind of upgrade to put into the platform. And, they get released into the platform. It's amazing. Like, you can see what's coming in the roadmap and a weekly release, and suddenly you've got new functionality. I mean, a good example of that is the observation checklist item that came out, I think, about a year ago. And it really enables your learner experience to just evolve and improve. So all those things that you have in the business requirements, or the things that you're thinking about, they can materialize into this platform. I always say as well is, make the most of what you've got. You get a load of different kind of apps that you can turn on in the system. You've got the tools there, get it moving, and hopefully you'll have success with the project. I'll just go on to the next slide. I know I'm conscious on time now. So just talk to these points here, just in summary, and then I think we'll get to the Q&A section as well. I'm sure some of you have got some questions. For us, it's really important to define the user journey. With Celia, we're very fortunate. She'd already thought about everything and came to the table with those ideas in mind. We had people out on boats who needed training out in the Antarctic Ocean. I was like, well, wow, that's amazing. How can we get the right content to them? It's a really kind of interesting experience. But we've also got the people in the warehouses and in the offices. They all need to have a positive learning experience. So for me, that was a great one to see. Sometimes we end up working with a team that really hasn't worked out who their audience are, and asking those questions to for us, asking those questions to you, or yourselves asking those questions to your different business units that will be coming on, or the external users they might be inviting in. We really need to think about who the users are that are going to come into the platform. And that kind of will help shape what landing page you might set up for them to make it nice, easy and accessible, and the configuration behind the scenes. So, you might want a catalog to come center stage for a particular external use case, for example, like a recommended catalog. Establishing look and feel for me is really important. Like I say, out of the box, Docebo's got some great functionalities. You can easily get running with your logos, your color scheme, make the most of the widget editor. You don't need to be a coder or anything like that, and you can really make it look on par with your brand very quickly. But if you want to take it to the next level, that's where you probably do want to think about getting your marketing team, your graphics team involved, etc., and taking it a step forward and utilising some of those features that are actually available there. So you've got the CSS editors, the HTML editors built into Docebo. Driving engagement, all of the things that I'm talking about will help drive the engagement, turning the functions on, making sure that you think about the people and the process to get there, and then ultimately you want to flip the old kind of feeling of, there's bad connotations of going to learning platforms in the past. I speak to all different people about online learning in my own family network, people that I've known from different businesses, and they say, you work in e-learning? And I say, well, you know what, we work with the Docebo platform. We really think about the experience that we're creating for the learners. That's really, really important. So many different people are accessing platforms and learning online. Is what you want to do with your experience is kind of flip it a little bit and make people kind of want to come to it, okay? Get away from the kind of just the compliance-led trainings. That's really important too. Think about tailoring it to your learners. There's so many functions within Docebo to do that. The audience update lately has really empowered us to allow you to kind of shift users around to see what they should see. Doing that and making sure that when the learner kind of comes into the platform, you've thought about them, and then you present things that they might be interested in, then that comes back to the driving engagement. And I think, yeah, okay, they've thought about me. It's not just compliance training. I do want to come here. I do want to learn. I want to contribute with my peers and have a really, good learning experience. And ultimately, people internally will benefit from that and improve their career as a result of it. You've got an external use case. They'll come back and think, that was a good set of training that I had access to, and I want more. Content strategy then comes back into that. You do want to keep that refreshed and keep new content coming and keep updating the platform to carry on driving that engagement. I think that's my last point on that section. So, Rob, hopefully I've left you enough time.
Absolutely, you did more than enough time. We'll hop now into a little bit of a question and answer period. There's been a few questions that have come in, but for everybody on the call, please feel free to use the Q&A and send some questions in. The first one that came in actually was a little earlier on, and it comes to you, David. The question, the person who asked it really liked the people plus process plus technology slide, and they're wondering, how do you manage the balance? And maybe you can sort of speak to your experience on this and what you've seen over the years. How do you manage the balance between the processes and the technology, especially with the limitations that can exist in technology that might not support that process completely?
Well, I think it depends which stage you're at in the project cycle. I mean, if you already got going with the project, you kind of need to readdress it and have a look at what the functions are and make sure that your team know all of the functionality that's available within the technology. If you're coming into it new, then you're in a good spot here. It's your time to really have a look at what's available. It's kind of, I always think of it as kind of like you getting a new car and you're kind of jumping into it. Some things are going to be familiar, especially if you're coming from a different learning management system. You're going to know where the steering wheel is and the handbrake, etc. But if you don't actually research all of the kind of features that are available in the platform, and you don't go through those and have to think about those and talk to your team and try to understand the technology, you'll probably hit blockers later on, because actually there's usually a flow that you can utilize the best parts of the platform to hit your business requirements. I mean, okay, there might be something completely far-fetched in your business requirements that the technology doesn't have. And, it might be at the first point you don't think about that, and you ask for something extra to be built in the technology and come back to that later on. Or you might have another technology out there and you think, what, can we embed that? Can we attach to that? And that's something that we've done quite a lot with over the last few years. We have a specific software team that utilizes Docebo's API and connects to other platforms at that point of need. Sometimes platforms that are outside of the learning platform are needed. You might want to attach to a different one. So ultimately, from my perspective, to answer that question, it's about really understanding the technology you've got and making the most of it where you can, and adapting the process to work with the technology. If you don't do that and you hit the blocker and say, no, it doesn't do it, then you won't get anywhere. You need to kind of move past that. And that's a challenge to the people. I have lots of conversations with lots of clients on consultation calls on a weekly basis, and just talking about it and finding the avenue that works with the technology ultimately results in the success. And again, coming back to with Celia, we went with that approach. We looked at the technology, and there were some things that you spoke to me and said, can it do this? Can it do that? And I was quite candid and said, well, no, it can't. But we could do this way, and that's allowed us to kind of move forward very quickly. And that's really important. Hopefully that answers the question.
So, Celia, a question just came in for you, actually. So they're curious what functions or pages, and when you look back at the slide that showed your main landing page, where do your activities and results options link to from that landing page? What are some of the functions and pages that those link to?
Is that a question for Celia?
A question for Celia, yeah.
I know the answer, I think.
I think you have to repeat that for me. If it's a technical question, it's better to hand it over to David.
No, not technical. So they're just curious where they link to. So when somebody clicks the activities icon or the results option, where do those go to, and what kind of experience do people have?
Okay, now I got it. Okay, yeah, so it links to the learners or your own activities in the portal. So what current activities do you currently have, like training modules, learning plans, your status? That's really the activities linked to that specific kind of item on the landing page.
I think that's quite an interesting point, because the language in Docebo, typically the activities goes to a specific page where it kind of shows you all of the courses that you're not enrollment, but the course kind of history almost, but you've set it up in a way where it goes to the courses, so the activities, the things that you're doing, and where your results button, I think that actually goes to the activities kind of page more specifically, which is just really, it's a good point really, because it, sometimes you look at the platform and you've got naming conventions, but you can redo those, you can rethink those and think what kind of fits for your language as well. A really powerful tool in the platform called the localization feature. You can actually reword the platform to suit you as well, which is quite a nice feature too.
A follow-up question on those ones for either of you. The linked pages that those would go to, are those customized as well?
No, I don't think so. But again, I guess
do you want me to answer that one? Or, yeah, I mean, the pages that they're linked to at the moment is getting straight into Docebo, kind of out of the box controls, getting to course thumbnails, getting straight into the content. The site, I mean, there's the onboarding page, which is a kind of a different experience for a new learner. So you can flip that with the group that you kind of getting access to, but we haven't done anything at this stage where we have kind of sub pages. With other clients, we have like a whole website experience where you nest the pages and go through different flows, and you can do that. You build out like a sitemap to do that kind of control. But in Celia's example, it's really about that front page, making nice, easy access, and then you get to a page that is kind of a Docebo standard, and then you go into your content and you get learning or contributing content as well.
So on the note of contributed content, and this is a question that comes up, I think, quite regularly for most organizations that are trying to move towards that type of, user-generated content and learning content. Celia, a question for you: did you implement Discover, Coach, and Share from the get-go? And how are you seeing the rise of user-generated content? Are you seeing results and success in that in the way that you've set it up?
Yeah, so we launched this in the same moment as the rest of the portal, and we did it with this onboarding portal last fall. And to put a bit of a pressure on it, I asked all newcomers to kind of upload their own videos introducing themselves, and this is kind of stored now in the onboarding portal, and I've continued with that as well now in the not the lockdown in Norway, but at least the COVID situation in March, to have every newcomer also share their experiences of remote onboarding. Not everyone does it, but of course enough, so at least so you have some interactivity there. And for the rest of the portal, it's going like step by step. You need to have those ambassadors really believing in your vision and seeing kind of the value in this. And then you just have to help them kind of getting along. And I think then that starts really the ball rolling, and it will create engagement. But of course, it takes time. At least my generation, it's not like every day you just take up your phone and you do a video shoot of yourself and you launch it to colleagues. But I think this is something that will come along, and as long as we continue to kind of nurture it and inspire people, then and have some patience, I think we will get there, and people will see the value of it.
I think, can I add to that as well, Celia, Rob? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought when we spoke initially about this feature, I remember having the conversation with you where I said, you're going to have to do it. You're going to have to lead by example. And you looked at me with surprise, but you did it, and you did a video and added that into the platform. And I think that, I think I think most people probably have that as a challenge, to kind of a hurdle themselves, to think, I've got to record myself and put it on the platform. I think if you lead by example in a project and do it, other people feel more comfortable with that, and then they'll start to get moving with it. And when Celia had, you run your onboarding sessions, you kind of introduced that and said, come on, we've got to get you on the platform, say hello. And I logged in, of course, today to check how that's going. And some people that joined through this COVID times have you really use that. They've made like 3-minute kind of recordings explaining who they are, why they've joined the business, what their skill sets are. And it just makes it a little bit more welcoming in your learning platform ultimately. So it is a hurdle. And I challenge again for the people that are on the line who are thinking, no, we can't do that. That will never fly. I think you've got to lead that. You have to take that step and lead by example ultimately.
I think the nice extension of this, David, a question for you. I think you'd probably be the best suited to answer this. For using Coach and Share, in your experience, do you feel that there is sort of a minimum viable product to make sense for it to be activated? And from sort of an actual learner point of view, what would you say the resources, or the admin, I suppose, point of view maybe is what they're more asking. What resources do you think are needed for it to be really useful?
Well, it's a good question, because Celia's resources was minimal, right? It was Celia. And you started working with us during the project, but that section wasn't really for us to manage. We were there just to kind of advise, and we talked about what's the best kind of way to introduce it. And it came down to this onboarding exercise ultimately, and that's where you began. Maybe you can add to that.
No, I think it's perfectly explained, David. So we just had to go with the onboarding portal and with all the newcomers last fall, and that's where it all started.
Yeah, I think you have to be kind of careful. You've probably got lots of different ideas of what you call in Docebo channels of where people will contribute items. Channels are kind of like a topic that you might set out. I think the first one we had was onboarding, just as simple as that. And then the idea was to introduce more later on as people got familiar with the technology. Within Docebo, there's the ability then to add experts to kind of monitor what's kind of coming in and almost police it a little bit. As the company grows and you get more resources involved and more people interested, you can start to nominate people and say, well, you are the expert. In our company here, I would be the guy who knows Docebo really well. So put me as the expert on the Docebo channel. Why not? Okay, yeah, it might be not part of my job role necessarily in my contract, but if you can persuade people to kind of start that journey, then you start having success. There are settings that you'll want to consider. So, you can kind of like turn it on and allow people just to contribute everything. That's a bit of a danger in a larger organization. They might contribute things that are incorrect. They think some things might need vetting. You might have already the culture in your business that you trust already, and people may be able to do that, and you know that they're going to submit the right things for the right people without having to check it. If you're in that position, then that's brilliant. You can get your employees, even particularly internal use case, your employees to contribute content and get it out there ahead of waiting for the L&D department to write some content specifically for it. I can do a screen share or a screen recording and put it into the platform, and ultimately people in my team can learn from it straight away. Why would I wait to do that? I don't need to with the technology. And as a result, my team personally and our experience, using things like that internally, is people learn quicker. People get to grips with it. They become useful quicker, and their onboarding ends up quicker. Different businesses will cope with it in different ways. When we work with teams, we start to unpick that, figure out the user journey, what's the best way to kind of introduce it. If you can do it, if you can lead it and go for it, like I say, you'll have more success with the project.
I think it's probably a bit more of a technical question. So maybe David, but let's say you probably would have even just as much insight into it. How's a new user defined in your system? And then how are they subsequently changed to a regular user? And is that a manual process? So I think post onboarding when they complete those, how does that transition happen? I think it's a bit more of a technical, so how do you do that day to day?
Do you want me to talk to that, Celia, or are you going to go for that?
I can give you that. I can try.
I think if you talk to it as it is now, because there's more to add to that after, I think, again. If you could explain how you're doing it on as a day-to-day administrator, that'd be good.
Yeah, so as of now, a new user is registered when we have a new employee in the company. So it follows kind of our people processes. So a newcomer will receive an email, easy as that, with a link to Docebo. And then once they hit the link, it will take them to the system, and a user profile will be generated. and they will have access then immediately to the onboarding portal. So that's how it's set up as of now.
And so there's what I was going to add, and something we probably need to talk about and have a conversation about, but the audience feature that is in the system. I mean, it comes from this group feature that's been successful over time already, which allows you to kind of allocate what the learner sees when they get into the platform. And if you've got some data kind of going through, you can kind of make that kind of happen autonomously. But now with the audience feature, you can do things like a course completion can drive what group you're in, and that can shape what page and experience you have. Something we probably need to talk about, Celia, and see how we can go from not just the onboarding step, but how we can go a bit further with that. And that, again, one of the great kind of weekly updates or monthly updates that Docebo kind of throw out, and it's just come with the tool, and it just empowers us. We've now got this ability to take an idea that we had, which we found a process to do, but now we've got a different process that we can make it even more efficient, and probably more exciting for the users. Again, probably think about doing different pages and having different kinds of variations of what they see. But yeah, it's quite powerful. And again, with the Eco Biomarine section, they're mainly an internal audience here. So you have it set up through a single sign-on kind of method as well. So people are kind of on their computers in-house, kind of clicking a button and they're straight in. I imagine a lot of people on the line are thinking, well, how do I do that with an external kind of sign-up form from the front end? Again, the mapping that you do with what credentials, what additional fields you collect from the people kind of signing up will shape how you set that up. So yeah, quite powerful.
Well, thank you guys both so much for joining us today. We're coming up at the top of the hour, so I just want to extend a thanks from all of us here at Docebo, as well as all the attendees. It was great to hear from you both.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Rob and Docebo.
And everybody on the call, please make sure that you register for next week, actually, our next webinar. We spoke a little bit about it today, but it's going to be a bit more of a Docebo U focused, really technical session, all about, everything you need to know about power users and how to power them up and make them as useful as possible. So we'll be joined by our senior customer success experience manager, as well as one of our solution deployment managers. And finally, I just want to leave all customers on the call with a reminder. Please do check out and submit for the Docebo Road to Inspire Learning Awards. We have extended the deadline to December 11th. And if you have any questions, please reach out to your customer experience manager. So thank you all for joining us. Celia, David, thanks so much. And I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their day.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.